Welcome to the Honest Man podcast, a discussion among men of various perspectives on subjects from the taboo to the typical. This is episode 13, and this one is going to kind of be from the taboo to the typical because it is going to be a different type of episode. We've been very topic based in the past. We pick one topic, we do long discussions about that where we share our different thoughts, opinions on those matters. But today, we're going to be trying out something new, which we're looking at potentially doing once a month, just as kind of like a side episode where we each come in with a topic that we want to discuss that's maybe smaller than some of the major topics that we cover in normal episodes, and just discuss that. Very conversational. So if you're into that sort of thing, these are the ones you're going to enjoy the most, probably, because we're just going to bring up little topics, each of us, and then discuss it. And this episode, though, we are missing Sean. Sean is sick, so he is out today. So it'll just be me, Chris, and Indy to take part in this very first one. So, guys, how are we feeling coming into a new type of episode?
I am down for it. Also, go Blue Jays. Yep. Playing the Yankees right now. So just want to get that out there, get that off my chest. But yeah, I'm definitely excited about it. Your favorite.
Not a big baseball fan personally. It's a snooze fest. And I always hate when I see arguments where people are like, baseball players are the most athletic players in all of sports. And I'm like,
who the fuck has ever said that?
I've heard that multiple times. I've also heard that it is the most skill required sport. And I'm just like, what? So, I don't know. As a baseball fan.
Up there. It's up there. That's lots of running.
Lots of running? What?
There's lots of running if you hit the ball.
If you hit the ball, which is very skilled.
Yeah, that is
hitting balls that go 98 miles an hour.
Yeah, but if you don't hit them, you're not running anyway.
Yeah,
this is true.
It's
you gotta run after the ball if somebody does.
It's like gate kept running. Like you have to reach a certain level to be able to hit the ball and then be able to run. So if you don't hit that level, you can't run. So like you're being gate kept.
You gotta be ready for it.
You know, I'm sure there are a lot of people that like baseball, but I don't think baseball is anyone's favorite sport.
No,
it definitely is.
It's up there. It
definitely is some people's favorite sport. So, what about you, Chris? How are we feeling about trying out something a little bit new with this? I don't know what we're gonna call it. We'll probably come up with a name for it. Who knows?
Yeah, we haven't decided yet, but I think it's gonna be good for us. Just give us a chance. Just talk about whatever we want. Not have to really stick to any kind of structure. You know, no one can really judge us for episodes like this because we're not going to be talking about anything too serious.
Sir, this is the internet. You will be judged.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. There will be judgment coming, I assure you. You're going to have people who are like, it wasn't focused enough, or it wasn't this and that. But you know what? If you do enjoy it.
There was an order to it.
Yeah, so, if you do enjoy it, let us know. Let's hear the positive critiques as well, The negative voices tend to be the loudest. So, as we get into it, instead of saying who wants to go first, I'm going to say, Indy, what is the topic that you would like to bring forth to be discussed among the three?
So we're going to talk about our mobile devices and why on earth have we chosen these things as if they're like our children. Like you can't go any other direction. It's Android, it's Apple. Why are people devoting their lives to these companies that don't care about us? They're just a customer.
It is very cult-like at times.
It's a cult.
Yeah, it is very cult-like. And it's interesting because you say like Apple versus Android, which are the systems, but for instance, Apple is just Apple.
Yeah.
You get the iPhone. That's what you get. Whereas Android is like Samsung, I think Nokia. Like there's tons, right? Like there's a bunch of phones that use it because it's just a system that they're being kind of placed on. But it is really interesting how diehard some people are. Now,
it makes no
what
sense.
are we all using? I'm an iPhone.
I'm an iPhone.
We're all iPhone users.
But I'm not like diehard. I enjoy my iPhone. I have no issues with it. We'll talk about it. I have considered leaving. I was Android before, up until, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that. But I have considered going away. Or either one of you like diehard with it? Are you like, no, I'm iPhone?
Oh, I'm definitely a switcher. I chase tech, which is gonna be funny because they're gonna laugh at me like, why are you on an iPhone? But I've chased tech since the beginning. I'm 40, so I remember before these things were even in existence, there were no smartphones. So we just walked around with the old brick Nokias and playing
I
Snake
had
on
one of
those
those.
things. And
Yep.
Oh yeah, me
yeah,
Yep.
too.
I had one of those.
nobody
Yeah.
cared. We got a Sidekick. That was the first kind of like internet kind of phone, and you could flip the screen up. And I was like, oh,
Yep.
that's so cool. I could send emails and get on AOL Instant Messenger. I'm the man. And then of course Apple came out, and you're like, what's that? But before that, there was the Android G1. I had that as well, which was the very first Android device, and it had kind of like a swivel up screen. So it didn't circle around like the Sidekick. It just kind of swiveled up, and it exposed a full keyboard, and it had a ball like trackpad. You can use it move a mouse cursor around.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. It was cool, but then it was kind of like buggy at the same time. Like it wasn't as responsive as I thought it should be. So when Apple came out, I was like, all right, cool, I'm jumping to that. And I did that for, I think I jumped on the iPhone at the 3GS,
Oh wow, way before
and
me.
Yeah, me too.
I've been on it ever since. And iPhone would kind of lead in the pack as far as a lot of things were concerned with tech. But after Steve Jobs died, man, I don't know what happened. Whatever he had in the pipeline, I guess our new guy Tim Cook just used it all up and is just kind of refreshing batteries and screens and cameras at this point and keep popping them out.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's I do think it's probably like a pacing thing where they go, okay, we can keep up with Android, which they're not, or we can just really slow down. It just gives us the opportunity to release another iteration and another iteration and another iteration. Because I mean, we all know, or at least you hear about all the time when we get excited for the iPhone 13, iPhone 14, we're like, oh, it's going to get this feature and that's going to be cool. And then Android people are like, we've had that for 2 years. Like you're getting excited about something that's quote unquote new. And it's been out. It has been on my phone that I bought 2 years ago. We are now getting features that are the next stage of what you're talking about, the second, third stage of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But we just don't seem to care. Like, I'm okay with it. Like, I have thought because sometimes, like, I want the newest tech, I want the cool stuff. But then I'm also like, I'm kind of good where I'm at.
I have to imagine that at some point, a part of that is like it's ingrained within us, you know. And it's like a loyalty thing, or it's like a fear of change.
Yeah.
Like we've had our iPhones for, I mean, going on like 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, at least I have. I've had an iPhone for going on 10 years, and it's not like I'm against switching, but I like my iPhone.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it deals with the ecosystem
Yep.
that these things get you in. I have Apple Watch. Wife has an iPhone, so FaceTime works out well for myself and families, and I don't have to use like FaceTime or Facebook Messenger and stuff like that to communicate. But
What's
back
interesting though is
before,
I'm not in the ecosystem and I'm still like, that's the only like Apple thing. I have AirPods. I guess that was a lie,
I don't
but
even have
that's it.
AirPods.
I have AirPods and I have an iPhone.
I have an iPhone is the only piece of Apple merchandise that I own.
yeah, I mean, I have an iPad for art. I draw. Well, I used to. And then they have they have their art programs on there, which are amazing. Procreate, which is unparalleled with other art programs at least as far as tablet style is gone. Because all the other tablets out there cost millions of dollars, thousands of dollars to get something, but this one you have something portable, handheld, works. So yeah, I kind of got looped into the ecosystem a little bit, but as I've gotten older, I don't I don't play games on my phone. I have Pokemon Go, which I play when I walk my dog. Other than that, I don't really play games on my phone. So the need for tech has kind of died off, and I think I'm on the iPhone 11 right now. 14 just came out. I used to be the guy that I traded my phone in, paid it off, got the newest one whenever it came out, but I don't really need the better camera, the better screen,
Yeah.
or processor. I don't care.
Well, them slowing them down is normally what causes me. I know that's what caused me to go from like the iPhone 6 to the XR. So I was like 4 generations at that point, right? So I ended up getting the iPhone XR and then I ended up getting the iPhone 13 because they were giving me like, it was going to be like, again, like half the price because I turned in my XR. So I was like, oh, what the heck? Let's go for it. I always Google and look up reviews to be like, is this actually worth it for you? And I thought it was. I mean, I like to have a good camera. be able to take things to record footage and stuff like that. So kind of made sense. And outside of that, though, I like the knowing your message is delivered. I like being able to see the little somebody's typing sort of things. But I'm not ingrained in the system, so I don't know necessarily why I stay. And I pay essentially markup pricing for old tech. Like when you really think about it, you're paying for the Apple brand, but you're paying, 1,300 bucks for something that came out 2 years ago on Android that probably cost on release $1,000. So you're getting it 2 years later and paying 300 more than what people paid for the first time. And that, of course, doesn't sit right with me. But at the same time, I'm like, do I care enough to switch?
I think that's what it comes down to a lot with the Android versus Apple debate as far as software is concerned. Because Apple does make their iPhones and they make their software, the two work together. Um, like I said, I haven't been on Android in forever, but I do know back in the past, getting updates with Android was done through your carrier. You didn't get to choose when you wanted it. So Jelly Bean or whatever else would come out, Donut, and that shows you how old I am with Android. But when those
remember
came,
that.
The old jelly
Yeah.
bean and donut.
yeah, they was named
I
after
remember
sweets.
that, man.
They're named after candies and sweets. But whenever they came out, you couldn't go out and download. I couldn't just hit update on my phone. I had to wait for my carrier to push it to my phone. So you could wait for months. You have to call your carrier and be like, "Hey, I haven't got my update." I don't know if it's still that way, but it's just because of probably that there's so many Android devices out there. If everybody who had Android device said, "Hey, I want the update now," it'd probably crash their server. I don't know, but that is one thing I do appreciate with the Apple devices, and I know that, like I said, because they are made together, they work pretty seamlessly. Um, with versus having um, another carrier with their software and having bloatware, which is something else I hated. Sprint would throw their apps on there, and
Yeah.
so I don't know if that still happens, but
I mean, you get some of that. It's not nearly as bad, and I mean, it's just more like iPhone or Apple system stuff. I know when I did the update to the latest, the iOS 16 or whatever it is,
yeah,
on my main screen, all of a sudden the fitness app was there. I didn't have that. I didn't mess
yeah.
with that. It was just on my home screen all of a sudden, and I'm like, "Excuse me, I have a Fitbit, thank you very much." So
Oh,
Yeah, I
you
do think
remember
it's
when
also
I think it was iPhone, they put like, I don't remember who it was, maybe it was like the Dave
U2.
Matthews Band or something.
It
They
was
put like an
U2.
entire new
yeah,
album in everyone's phones. Like, who the fuck is this?
Yeah, it was
yeah.
the U2 album, and
You
they
too, yeah.
used the records, and they're like, "Oh, the best selling." I was like, "You bought it. You gave it to me. I didn't ask for it."
You bought it for all of
Yeah, they're
us.
like, "Oh, it's number one selling." I was like, "No, that's BS. That's a BS record. That
I
needs to be
even
wiped
like
from the
you
books."
two.
Yeah, that was the first thing you did was delete that stupid album.
Oh, it sure was. I
But
think
I
that was
do
the
feel
first music I ever had on my iPhone.
oh, I've definitely had music on it before the whole Apple Music
Yeah,
thing
I did it
kind of
before
came out.
Apple Music. I only used Pandora.
Yeah, I did Pandora as well, but I definitely do wish. Like I said, we were talking about flipping. When this phone does die, I'm probably gonna switch. I do look at doing like a smart home, because I am a techie and I want more of that availability. It's not really there for Apple devices, and if it is, it's way more costly
Yeah.
than it is to integrate with an Android device. So I would like to have that ability to do that. So
My boss went full Google. We talked about it in our weekly meeting on Monday. He was like, "Yeah, I'm like a Google fanboy now." He was like, "I have like the Google Home stuff. He has a Google phone, a Google TV, which I didn't even know that like that was a thing." And like, I don't know. He just everything is Google now. And he was like the only person we were testing the app in the early days. We were like, "Okay, what are we testing it on?" He was the only Android. Like the entire, not we weren't a large company, it's a skeleton crew of for a startup, but out of like the 5 or 6 of us, he was the only one that had an Android. So we had to like, and we released on iOS first, so he couldn't even like use the stuff. He had to get some old crap like I think it was like an iPhone 5 or something, just to like be able to open the app and like check stuff and whatnot. But
wow.
yeah, that's it. We talked just like ecosystems and the smart home stuff. It is
Yeah.
cheaper to go like those other routes. And so I've thought about doing things like that. And then I'm like, but why do I need it? And this is kind of like a totally different thing, but I'm like, I can just flip the switch. for my lights. Like I don't need to be like,
Yeah.
I have an Alexa. That's what I want to say. She might hear me, but like Google, do this. Like I don't know. I just
It's the techie part of me, and like I said, growing up, seeing this stuff on like television shows, and you're like, oh, that'd be so cool. But for one actual functional thing, um, like we have a bay window, and there's a set of blinds for each one of those windows on that bay window. So there's three sets of blinds. They have automatic or smart home like blind openers, so I don't have to climb over my couch, reach up, and twist each one of those things to open them up. I can push one button, all three of those blinds would open up, let the sun in. That'd be pretty sweet.
yeah.
So I think that would be pretty cool. And yeah, back to the original topic, the point of all of this. When you get online, people start talking about one phone versus the other, and they take it way too seriously, and they get offended
Yeah.
when you start speaking about their phone. And I'm like, it's a phone. You call somebody on it, and you're speaking ill of somebody else and wishing they would die because they said something bad about your phone of choice. And I think we get too committed. I think what it comes down to is a financial investment,
Mm-hmm.
and people get like really caught up in I spent this much
Yeah.
money on it, so I have to stick to it and speak about it. And
I have to be
you know,
invested in it more than what
yeah,
it is because it
yeah,
cost me $1,300. Like,
exactly. I spent $1,000 on it. Don't you dare speak ill of it.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
It's like
what's
they're
also
like sports teams.
yeah,
mhm.
The phones are like sports teams.
People have to be competitive about it too. Like it shouldn't be this thing where like, oh, you have an Android, I have an iPhone. Like it doesn't have to come up. Like there's no point really discussing it unless you have a specific question. Hey, does
yeah,
yours do this or what is a benefit or something? But it's not just like, oh, you have an Android.
yeah.
Wow, I have an iPhone, and then they're like, okay, well, your tech's old, and you're like, okay, well, what Apple people say back? Our text boxes are blue, dude. Like, come
Yeah.
on, you're for
And
the
that's been
lame,
a whole
When I
other
text
debate.
you, your boxes are green. You
yeah,
idiot.
Yeah, that's a whole other
loser.
debate right now between a lot of these with Android themselves are actually targeted specifically iPhone, and come out with this whole campaign about why the bubble thing is a bad thing, and Apple is the one who's actually rejecting a common um, tech or text service. I think it's called RCS, I believe, but it's a universal thing that would allow Android and iPhone to talk and show the bubble of like typing. And when you text somebody from an Android to an iPhone or vice versa, it degrades the quality because they're not using the same, I guess, conversion
Yeah,
type of thing.
Yeah.
So Android is put out whole ad war on iPhone. If you look on Twitter and look at Android, it's out there. It's pretty crazy.
so
But I'm
they're
off my soapbox there.
they're saying like iPhone is trying to hold their whole blue bubble sort of whatever,
Yes,
but Android's like, hey, if you just use this system,
exactly.
everybody who talks to each other can get it.
Yeah, no
Okay.
problems, no lost text. Pictures would come through perfectly fine. You can
Yeah.
see the typing. All of that would be fine. But
Yeah.
Apple is so this is my ecosystem. I put I in front of it.
Hmm.
Now it's mine. I don't want to adopt what everybody else is using. I don't care about you guys because we want to be separate and special. So
That's because there probably are enough people out there that really want that blue text box, and they'll buy an iPhone for it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. So they're like, oh, if everybody can get the bubbles at the bottom and everybody can get whatever, then
The people
maybe they don't get
They
iPhones
might
anymore.
gravitate to the
exactly.
tech that actually is more up to date.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's my soapbox. What you got, Steven?
So my topic is going to be that, and I don't know if I mentioned on the podcast before, just what was going on with my job and whatnot, but we've been trying to sell. Recently, after we tried to fundraise, we tried to get investment to keep us going right at the time that the economy was just taking a massive crash because of everything with the war in Ukraine and all that sort of jazz. So, I think it dropped like 9% and all the investment basically started being, the way that it was described was we have good metrics, which 2 years ago, 3 years ago, good metrics would get you investment, but with the way the economy is right now, you need great metrics to get it because the standard has just gone up because people don't want to part with their money because the economy is kind of shifty. So we went public on Friday stating, not that we went public like investment, we went public stating finally that essentially by October 7th we will be shutting down if we don't get an acquirer or somebody who wants to keep us going. We're also open to people acquiring us, just our tech. right? Like not even keeping the company going as it is, but just like, so we can pay back investors and stuff like that. So we basically, the CEO penned a letter to the public. We posted on socials and LinkedIn and on a blog and all that sort of jazz, letting people know. And that leads us to the main point that I want to make is the decision of where to go from here, right? So I've been at this company, a startup, where I worked a lot, but I enjoyed what I did for a year and a half. And now that's coming to an end. And I've had 2 other jobs in this industry, the esports industry, and both have basically pulled the rug out from under me. And this isn't the same situation. The other 2 was just like one day I just get a call and it's like, hey, like this is it. We're pulling the plug. We're not, everybody's laid off sort of situation. And this one was, I've known for months that like we weren't heading in a great direction. We were trying to figure things out. Then it was okay. We're going to extend that. We downsized our team to get more, but then it was kind of like, we got to make something happen. There's more expenses, that sort of thing. But it's where do I go from here? I'm tempted because I've worked for this period of time to take a break, because for most of the year and a half, I worked 7 days a week, and I have a good amount of money in the bank, and I'm like, hey, why not give yourself a set amount of money? Who knows what that amount of money will be? But for throwing a hypothetical, let's say $7,000, right? And I say, well, my rent is $1,300 a month by itself. So you add in the bills past that, which is like phone bill, internet bill, gas, dog food, and I'm probably spending $2K a month minimum, just to survive. When you add in like groceries, I'm like, so that would get me 3 months, right? Like that would be neat to be able to do that. But it's the decision of, do I do it? Am I willing to take $7,000 out of my savings account? And 2, it's how easy would it be for me to find another job? So if I decide to take that money, and spend that to kind of keep myself going for a couple months to just take a break, and then I try to get a job and it doesn't come to me very quickly. And then it ends up being, now it's $8,000 because I haven't found a job in that month. And then it's $10,000 because I still haven't found a job. And it's like, oh, okay. So that's something. And the counter to that was, I was saying that I would still be looking passively for the first bit. And once I crossed maybe the halfway point, I would start looking more actively with that intent. So that's one. And then the other point, because I've been kind of explaining this for a while, was just, do I go back to esports when I'm done? Or do I take a totally different thing and career swap into something else? So,
I mean, I think you're in an interesting position just because of your lifestyle, right? Like you do have, X amount of money in the bank, and I know you don't spend a lot of money.
I don't do anything. Like if
Like
you cut out
you buy
DoorDash,
food, you pay your bills. Yeah, I'm gonna say DoorDash, your bills, dog food. I know you just got a new computer a while ago. You don't need anything else for that. So unless you really want this 4090 or whatever.
yeah,
But I mean, yeah, obviously, like you said, you've been working pretty much nonstop for a year and a half, 7 days a week ish, right? And it's even though it is getting bigger, you're still kind of working in like this niche industry.
it's volatile. Like that's the
Yeah,
problem.
I
Is
mean,
like,
just based on your past 2 experiences in the industry, like
yeah.
it's just looking at it from the outside. What it like how many of these companies are staying afloat consistently?
Yeah, even the top orgs in the space, when like the economy has taken this turn, they all laid people off. Like the biggest 100 Thieves, TSM, like these companies that are supposed to be like the successful esports orgs, and that they lay people off because it's a business and they have a board and they have to answer to them and show them that they're cutting costs to keep revenue. And so like, then I'm gonna say, okay, so if I swap to one of those, I could just be in the same boat. And that's any job, right? But there's definitely industries that the stability is a little bit better. That you might be at a company for 3 years, 5 years. Andy, you've been at a company for like a bajillion. So
Yeah, I'm going on 20 in March.
yeah, so they're out there, but I
And
haven't.
You're averaging what, like a year or so at
Yeah.
each one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my last 4 jobs I've been at for probably on average a year to a year and 2 months, something like that. Because you had the first one. I don't actually, it is longer. It's probably more like a year and 2 to 3 months versus just like a flat year or something. Because I did the one while I was still in school, and then they moved me out. So let's just say that was a year altogether. And then when I did back to the real world, I left that job to take a job back in esports after about 10 months. But that was my choice. I could have stayed there in the reputation management, regular corporate world. And then went back to esports, was there for about a year and a half. And then we came to this one, it was here for about a year and a half. So yeah, it's not a year. But yes, none have been these long lasting, miraculous, like this is my forever home, because there's just always that looming thing. I'm not working for a company that's just in the green, set to go sort of thing. So I've definitely considered that swap. Something else worth mentioning, and one of the reasons I wanted to take the break is, I do stream, and I have the content creation side, and my best months, it was like 3 months in a row back in 2020, I think, early 2020, I had made $1,000 a month for 3 months. That was my best earnings. You can't live off of that, right? Like my best month was $1,000 a month. And so one of the other things is very recently, when I kind of knew the job thing might be happening, I shifted focus a lot over to YouTube. And I've been trying to put out a lot of content. Like I said, over the last like 6 or 7 days, I put out like 8 videos, trying to grow that, because taking 2 to 3 months off gives me that time to really grind those. And I don't think I could make it my full-time job in that amount of time unless I just had an incredibly lucky break. But I think I can make some really good ground. And the idea there was, if I gave myself a set amount of money, but I was earning some, it would offset that a little bit. And then maybe that 3 months turns into 4 months or 5 months, right? Depending, if I chose that path, because that amount of money would still be there, but I would be stopping the bleeding essentially a little bit. So that's another thought process. But, my stream hasn't been fantastic. I think it brings me in $250 to $350 and like $100. So, if it's $300, if we meet in the middle, and then YouTube right now, like brings in like $15. So
Hey,
like,
that's big money, man. That's big
yeah.
money.
Yeah, nothing makes you realize.
That's a meal right there, man.
Yeah, a singular
Not
meal,
from
not from DoorDash. But
Oh.
if I swing over to McDonald's or something, if I get a medium. But yeah, it's something. But I just started really pushing it, so who knows? Maybe at the next 28 days when it catches up, because that's the time period, is 28 days. Actually, it's up to 17. Maybe it'll be $40 or $50, and then it's like, okay, well then between the two of them, it is $350, right? And then maybe in another month I'm up to making $600, and that's again helping that. So yeah.
So there's a Japanese philosophy called ikigai, and it's basically, there's 4 points to it, 4 qualities, and it's finding what you love, finding what you're good at, finding what you can be paid for, and finding out what the world needs. And if you were to put all of those in a Venn diagram, your dream job, perfect job, would be what's in the middle.
Mm.
So I have a friend who does caricatures for a living. He's not living an extravagant life, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but he's getting through just drawing. And if you were to tell younger me I could make it just drawing, I'd be amazed. So it's kind of what you want out of life, and that's something you got to take into effect. So sure, you can have a big successful job, making lots of money,
Mm-hmm.
but you're always working, you're always on call, you're stressed out, you're killing yourself on the inside. You don't get to enjoy your days off because somebody's always going to call you. So then it's become a quality of life thing. Do I work, 340 days a year to get those 20 days off and really enjoy those 20 days and do that for the rest of your life until you retire? Or do you, find something that you love, something that you're good at, something that makes you happy, and kind of work that a little bit, but make it enough to support yourself and then go with that? So
That's
yeah,
a good
it's
that's
a
a good
crossroads.
point. When I left that corporate job, the reputation specialist, I made more money there, and I had benefits, and I left it for making a couple thousand less, nothing huge, maybe somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000 less a year, but also with no benefits. So it was a larger than a $2,000 to $5,000 thing, because if anything happened to me, like that's that. But it was because it was kind of that decision of, do I want to sit in a cubicle doing reputation management every day for 9 hours, because they forced a 1 hour lunch break. You couldn't not take it, which just meant to me that was just another hour of work.
Yeah.
I just sat in the building for an hour waiting to be able to go back. And I'm like, no, this is a 9 hour day. I was commuting an hour and a half per day. It was 30 minutes to get there, an hour back in traffic. 10 and a half hours to 11 hours basically every day. And I was like, do I want to do that or do I go back and work in esports and gaming, which I enjoy? And so I took the pay cut, I lost the benefits, and I went back and did it. And I never regretted it at no point. Even when I lost that job a year in when they were raided by the Chinese government, like I wasn't like, oh, I freaking hate that I did that. Or a year and a half in, I was like, no, that was a great year and a half. You know, I got promoted, I got a raise, I got, eventually I had benefits. I worked up, they gave me benefits. I worked up, they gave me a raise. I was making the most money I'd ever made in my life, all because I took that chance on going and doing what I enjoyed. So, and then I went to this job, and at first it wasn't benefits. I ended up getting benefits. I got a promotion and a raise. And then 2-3 months before we kind of were like, oh crap, we can't do this, I had gotten another raise. And both times I was making more money than I ever made in my entire life. So one of the things that I struggle with is going backwards. And I don't know, it would take insane to get me to where I was from content creation and stuff like that. But I also recognize I don't need that. So your point is like, do I have to live in an apartment, a studio that costs me $1,300? No, I don't. I could move to somewhere that's cheaper, but I signed my lease 2 weeks ago, so I can't do it now. But I probably could have found some place that I wouldn't have necessarily liked as much for $300 less, right? And that cuts a lot off the top, and that means that I don't have to have the job that pays X amount of money. So those are all things that like I'm, constantly thinking about. And I guess in a way, it's scary to be in my position because on one hand, I want to kind of shoot my shot and see what I can do with the time I have, knowing that it won't probably get me to where I need to be, but it could be a really good, okay, I'm seeing the progress, I should pursue this more often. Then I'm like, okay, if it's making some money, do I just get a part-time job? Something that allows me to still have enough time to put in and really pursue that, but also secure me financially so I'm not bleeding money. I'm just kind of breaking even, It's just a tough spot. And then the third part was, do I stay in it? Do I stay in the industry? Do I just find another job in esports and just keep spinning that wheel? Or do I say, let me find something else?
I would say spin that wheel, man. I would say don't come out of what you love doing. Like that's the reason why when you look at all these people who are on like Shark Tank, all those guys up there, they all left a corporate 9 to 5. I was working a 9 to 5 corporate life. I didn't like it. I decided to create my own business. I came up with, I saw something that the world needed, and I came up with this idea for this baby pacifier that ties it to the shirt thing. I don't know, but all those people who have and then like if you watch a lot of these, we watch a lot of cooking shows. A lot of the cooking shows where they have like contestants come on and I started my own restaurant. A lot of people left a 9 to 5 corporate. I was working 9 to 5. I hated it. I left. I went and found a job at a restaurant, got really good at it, and it was able to help somebody else start theirs up. And then eventually, took out a business loan and started my own restaurant. And here I am. So, like I said, I'm in that boat now where my job's stress is getting to the point where it's not worth the money to me. And I'm about to have a son. I want my time. I don't want to be stuck at work or, like I said, that whole idea of like working and never being off the clock. That's me.
Yeah.
So just last week, they had a discussion about how I was gone for 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, and some stuff kind of hit the fan at work. And they were like, "Oh, you should have called Indy. He's available 24/7." What? Like I can't enjoy 2 days away from the company and live my life, but they preach work-life balance.
Yeah. They
I don't know where you're
always
supposed
do.
to find it, but they won't give it to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nothing but stress, and it's to the point now. I'm going to take the time once my child is born and we get our 8 weeks paternity. I'm going to start looking.
Yeah, and that's awesome you get that. Honestly,
Yeah.
like it's awesome that you get. 2 full months of paternity leave is amazing.
Yes. So the company does have some good benefits. I won't knock that, but it's the stress that is causing me to get those benefits. And God, it's going to be crazy when I do take that time off. Like I fear taking that time off. And that's what corporate does to you.
Yep.
They make you think, oh yeah, you take that time if you want to. Just know what's gonna be waiting for you to get back. Or
If
I'm
you can
thinking
come
about,
back.
yeah, yeah. So I'm thinking in my head already, like, how is this gonna work? How am I gonna get this set up to where I can leave and not stress and think about it while I'm at home with my son? So yeah, I want a different job. I want a better job. Um, I want to be able to support my family and be happy. That's all I want. I don't really care about the rest of it.
Yeah.
So
That's the other debate is, like I said, I come to this point where I say I don't want to go backwards, but I can also recognize that I don't need to make as much. And I wasn't making any insane amount, like I made 60,000 at my peak, immediately had to take a pay cut, went down to 55. And then when I took my weekends back, because our weekend guy left, I basically was like, okay, I want that back. And I went back up to 60, which is only like a month and a half, 2 months worth, two months worth of paychecks before my last paycheck is coming. Right. So, no insane amount. I'm not six figures or anything like that, but I don't know how many jobs are out there that you can just come in and make 60,
yeah,
like you. So, and I think some of that comes into questioning, Sean brought it up in some of our earlier episodes, the imposter syndrome, where I've done this job. I've gotten a lot of compliments on my work ethic for this job. I've gotten compliments on some of the ideas and campaigns I've come up with and the things that have worked. And I still go, when I see other job descriptions, like head of marketing, which I did marketing in this role. I was director of content. I did marketing. I did socials. I did the content side. I dealt with freelancers. I did tons. And I see that and I go, I don't think I could do that. I don't feel like I feel like they'd be disappointed. Like I wouldn't meet the standard that they have. And I do that with all these roles where I just go, okay, well, what am I going to end up doing? Like, what am I going to end up doing if every time I see something that would get me to the same level, the same salary, the same like status, I go, I don't think I could do that.
I'm gonna tell you, man. Shoot your shot.
Yeah.
Worst
That's
you can
what
hear
I
is
do.
no.
I like to tell people, even if there's even a small part of you that thinks you can do a job and you can do it well, just apply for it. It doesn't matter if you're qualified or not. Just apply for it. It
Yep.
literally
Yeah.
cannot hurt you.
A lot of
Yeah.
places are willing to work with you because the job market's so terrible. They're like,
Yeah.
hey, I know you don't meet all the qualifications, but you meet a good majority of them or a percentage of
Well,
them.
it's not even
We like what you
qualifications.
got.
It's that I fear that like I won't actually be able to do whatever it is. It's not the
Yeah,
qualification. I could be totally qualified. I think it's a fear of like being a disappointment. Of like somebody hires me and they have these
yeah.
expectations, and then it's like, wow, dude, that marketing campaign didn't work that you made, and then I'll just be like, oh my god, I can't do this, like, so that is also a fear. And going back to like any job, my job had a lot of freedom to it. Even though I worked a good amount, nobody was on my neck the whole time. There wasn't anything. As long as my job was getting done and I was doing it well, we were good. So
That's the way a
I
job
could
should
dip
be.
out and go to the gym. I could dip out and run to the grocery store and whatever throughout the day, throughout a work day, as long as I was on top of stuff. And I'd be in my car making a breaking news story would happen. I'd literally be on my phone walking through the grocery store, copying it, getting in there, sending it out, sending a push notification, making sure it was done because I was still doing my job. But I could live my life a little more loosely. And I love that. And the idea of like going back to not being able to do that is just like, oh,
Yeah, that's what I want. I want to be able to work from home. I want to be able to do like my job is getting to a point now where micromanaging is starting to become a thing,
mhm.
and I know how to do my job. Just tell me what you want me to do. Don't come in and do it for me or make sure everything's little pieces being done. Like set an expectation. If I don't live up to it, then we handle it when that happens. But let me do my job.
Yeah.
And that's getting to a point where it's very annoying. But back to your point of like not feeling like you can do it, just go for it, man. When I got my management position at my job now, I thought for sure I was like, there's no way I can be a manager. Look at those guys with their collared shirts and their khakis, and I could never do that. I'm this weird tattooed pierced guy. I've never fit into that whole culture, and they are very smart and skilled and know what they're doing. I got up here and realized they don't know what the f they're doing. They're struggling. They're asking questions. I'm like, you should know this. Like, how long
Mhm.
have you been here? Like, this is crazy. But these guys have been over top of me my entire Walmart career, and it's nuts.
That's
So
something that dawned on me. And, Ben, my boss, is CEO. smart dude, knows his stuff. He's whatever. But when I got the job, he was a founding member of Twitch. Like, they sold to Amazon for like X amount of money. Like, he was a part of that team. He was the head of marketing for Twitch. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, this is and then you're actually in meetings and like he's taking my advice, right? And he's asking me for this and he wants my opinion. And I'm going, oh, these are just other people.
Yeah.
Like, they're just other humans. They don't have this and some people do, right? There was this other guy, Eros, who was like the marketing guy for Discord. And whenever he spoke about stuff, I was like, you understand this at a level that I do not comprehend with just the way, that he could just like, and he's an advisor and it's like part of like funds and stuff like that. Like, dude's just next level. But and talking with a lot of the other people and you know, executives and stuff, you realize like a lot of these people are just, they're smart people. They know what they're doing, but they're not just at a different level than you are. And that did help. That did help me go, oh, okay. Like, they don't know, they don't have all the answers either, is basically it. They don't know every single thing. They look to me for some stuff. They want, you know, and I'm like, okay. And that helps me in that situation. But
yeah, so when I start looking, I'm definitely going to be, I'm going to sow my oats, man. I'm throwing as many of those seeds out there and I'll see what grows, but I'm going to be canvassing. Here,
Yeah.
you get one. You get an application. You get an application. Here's my resume. Here's a resume. Wait for them to all start calling me. If they do it all, I may hear crickets. I don't know. But I got to do something, man. Change has got to happen. And my wife and I talked about it even before I took this management position. Change is hard, man.
yeah.
I fear the unknown. I fear trying to figure out what I can do next. That's always been, I think that's our biggest roadblock as individuals, people. It's just making that leap, taking that step into the dark, not knowing what's going to be on the other side or if there's a step there at all. Are we going to fall? But nobody gets anywhere, man, unless we take those leaps. And the greater that risk, the greater the reward. There's safe routes everywhere. You can, like you said, you can jump right back into a 9 to 5, put on your khakis, and just show up to work and take your hour lunch break forced upon you.
I can't.
You can
It's
do
easy
it,
to
man.
do.
I believe in you.
I wouldn't like, that would be the thing. Like, that would be where, you know, because I'm not dumb. Like, with this, where I say, oh, if I gave myself $7,000, I would be able to go multiple months past that and still be okay. Right? Like, that's the approach that I'm taking. So if something isn't working out, but I wouldn't go back to something like that unless I was in like that second month of past my allotted amount. Right? I would basically be willing to go a little bit further to avoid that. I'd be like, hey, well, I could pay another $2,000. Like, I don't want to, because I would be so unhappy doing it. But, and then a lot of people will tell me that like the idea that I am like leaving working to like pursue the content creation thing. A lot of people are like, that's stupid. You know, they're like, it's a massive risk for no reason.
People that they're stupid.
Yeah.
But in a way, I get it. Because I've been doing it for 10 years and I haven't been able to live off of it.
But
so
who cares?
Yeah.
It's
Because
a risk.
You know,
essentially you're spending
love
a
what
lot
you
of
do,
money
You'll never work a day in your life.
and then you end on the street. So
Yeah, but you're still loving what you did.
I won't be able to do it anymore. But okay, that's my subject. Unless there's any final bits from you guys, that'll be it. We'll wrap over to Chris's because I just can talk about this all day. So,
So I do have a question. Do you know like what your number would be like just on Twitch to be able to make it like a living?
you mean like just subscriber number? Because that's different, right?
Subscriber / dono number just to be able to like keep it going.
Oh, like just how much money do I need to earn to be able to? I would say I would need to come in like pre-tax or post-tax, like $2,000, and that would cover bills. I would be able to feed myself, and I'd be able to pay rent and stuff like that. So when you consider paying taxes, I need to probably make closer to $3,000 a month from that. So about 10 times what I make now. But those things, though, they kind of compound if you get somewhat popular. Because, for instance, in a month, I make like $50 to $60 maybe in ad revenue, averaging maybe 20 viewers. So if I had 100 viewers, then you're making a couple hundred from ad revenue. At 100 viewers, you're probably getting double to triple the amount of subs you have, and it grows, right? Just by having viewers, you make ad money. Some of those viewers are going to sub, and then it keeps going. So it's really just, can you keep adding viewership? You know, when people are streaming, even if they're not getting a ton of subs, but they're streaming to 900 viewers, the ad revenue is getting them money. Like they're walking away with $1,000, $2,000 at the end of the month without having any subs. So it's really getting that up and, diversifying as well, right? Like I have people can sub to me. They can, of course, do donations. Watching gets me the ad revenue, which isn't a whole lot, but then trying to do the YouTube thing as, a backup. And maybe eventually I start to get consistently a couple hundred from that or something. And yeah, sponsors are a big thing on YouTube, like sponsored videos, stuff like that, sponsored streams on Twitch. So there are a lot of ways, but it would need to bring in like $3,000 and then I'd have to pay the taxes on that. So it's not easy at all. I mean, trying to make $3,000 off of, I wanted to look it up. Yeah, I've made $40 in ad revenue in the last 28 or 30 days. So, and that is with 18 average viewers, right? So at 40, I'm going to have double that. At 100, I'd have double that, and it scales along with the other things. But it's not easy and it would take a lot of money. And that's the big thing that I think people don't understand. It's a lot easier to do if one, you live at home, or two, you have roommates, because then that threshold for how much you need to make drops, right? Like if we all still live together, me, you, and Roland, then you would cut that in half. I would need $1,500, $1,800 a month post tax, and I'd be able to live off of that no problem, because I was paying like $700 including utilities, rent, everything, and now I'm paying $1,300 not including the other things. So yeah, it's pricey.
So what you got going on, Chris? What's your topic?
So my topic is going to be just lifestyle changes in general. I know I've talked about this one, not last episode, maybe the episode before that, maybe. I recently went and got a physical done, get some blood work done. Since I started therapy, my therapist recommended that I get some blood work done to see what some of my levels were. Everything was normal except for my cholesterol. My cholesterol being on the range of normal cholesterol being like, I don't know, like 140 to 170. My cholesterol was like 280. So dangerously high, at high risk for cardiovascular disease. And so I took that and immediately started a new diet, completely changed my diet. Just this past week, I started going to the gym again. I haven't been to a gym in, I don't know, when did we get our first Planet Fitness memberships? Like 2009.
Oh my goodness. I remember we would group up to go to the gym, and I swear Chris or Charles, that it'd be like one session. Session. And that would be like the extent of their gymming for like the next 5 years.
Yeah, I didn't need to.
That was
so
early 20s, bro. It's probably been 10 years.
Yeah, like 10 years. It's been like 10 years since I've last been to a gym. And honestly, if I'm being completely honest, it's probably been like 6-7 years since I actually like worked out. So yeah, it's just been this huge change that I've had to make, and I tend to do this, I guess, when I feel like my life is in danger, because I got an endoscopy done a couple years ago, an upper GI, and they told me I had Barrett's esophagus, which puts me at a higher risk for esophageal cancer. So when I heard that, that's when I cut down on vaping. I used to vape, so I cut down on that, and I've quit vaping now too. So just over like the past month, I've quit vaping. I've changed my diet. I don't even eat red meat anymore, and it kills me. I've started working out. I'm eating like the most, like every morning since I found out my cholesterol was high. I'm eating Greek yogurt with walnuts. For lunch, I'm eating a piece of toast with some vegetables. And for dinner, I'm eating some kind of salad, and I might throw some salmon in there. And I'm doing this every day because I just, I want to die.
Yeah, we would appreciate you being around.
Yeah. I mean, I don't exactly know how that works. Now, is it kind of like if you eat like that for an extended period of time, it'll drop that back down and then go to a more medium level diet to kind of keep it there? Because I don't think, like, I think you could still have decent cholesterol without having a salad for dinner every day, right? Like,
so I don't know. My doctor wasn't extremely informative. So we have like a website where they look at my chart. That's what it is. So she sent me my results. She said, "Hey, your cholesterol's X. It's very high. You're going to start a new diet. It's going to be a high fiber, low sugar, low carb diet, and this is what you're going to do. And that was all she told me. So on top of the diet, I also get medication. So I'm taking medication every day to go with that. So I'm just trying to get my cholesterol lower to a normal level before I go back for more blood work to get it tested again. And then I'm assuming that if my cholesterol is at a more normal level, I can just eat a more normal diet. It's just
Yeah.
right now I'm probably going overboard right now, and I understand that. But
Mhm.
I'd rather go overboard now than
Yeah.
Yeah.
end up going back 3 months later and finding out it's still high.
Is that the time frame? Like in 3 months you'll go back?
Yeah, I'm
Is that
supposed to go back in 3 months.
okay? And they'll test it again. Okay.
Yeah. So it sounds like, yeah, once you, like I said, just notice how these changes are affecting you once you're consistent with them, and then seeing the outcome, and then readjusting the plan after that.
Hmm. I mean, I think all of that is just good in general. Honestly, like the
Oh,
fact
it
that you
definitely
started
is.
to exercise and stuff. I mean, I feel like this is you have the people go through like a midlife crisis, but this is almost like the ultimate or the alternate in a way because you are old and
Uh-huh.
you and instead of like crashing and burning, you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to therapy now. I'm getting my health in order. Like these, I mean, it's all positives, right? Yeah, and maybe it was caused by, at least the health stuff, by oh crap, the years of not doing this has led to. But at the same time, I mean, going to the gym, eating healthier, like that's good stuff. Those are again, some people they need that negative aspect to come into their life to push them to kind of make those changes. Some people just do it, but I mean, yeah, no, that's good stuff. What's been the hardest part? The diet or the getting yourself in the gym?
Um, Honestly, it hasn't been hard for me at all. Um, Ever since I started the therapy, and then so it's like the therapy stacked on top of I have a better diet now, stacked on top
Hmm.
of I'm exercising now. It's like everything is falling in place. My mental
Hmm.
health feels better, my physical health feels better. So it's
Yeah, I was
just like
gonna ask you if,
everything's coming together, and it's just I feel just better.
yeah, I was gonna ask you if you noticed any changes since you've started, like physically. Have you noticed anything different?
Um, Not so far, not really. Yeah, it's only
Yeah.
been like a week, but I'm not expecting to see like any huge changes, but I just want to feel like
What
I
are you
can.
doing when it comes to like the gym? Like, is it like what is I guess what is the goal with the gym? And then like what are you doing to kind of get that?
Right now, I'm just doing like heavy cardio.
I was about to say it's probably cardio. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like heavy cardio. I went Monday. I did an hour of cardio.
Like incline walk sort of thing?
Yeah, so I was on the treadmill for half an hour. Um, Different incline levels, different speeds, just
Hmm.
for an hour or half an hour, and then I did another half an hour on a bike, and that was just that for me.
Okay.
So right now it's just hard cardio, and then my wife told me that if I start losing weight, she's gonna kill me. So I guess once I start feeling like I'm in better shape, like better heart health, I'd like to actually start working out the rest of my body.
Hmm. I mean, you can do both, but I mean, I understand like getting yourself in there and like starting out and stuff like that. But you don't have to like wait to start lifting weights because I mean, depending on how you lift, that could be cardio. Like if you do, more reps, lighter weight, that sort of thing, supersetting, you can definitely get like a good heart rate going. And I think that's part of when I was asked about the cardio is going in and walking at like a 2.1 on a flat is not going to help like necessarily. It's better than not, but like, a little incline, your breath should be different than if you're just like sitting down. Like that's kind of
Yeah,
like the
holding a
main
regular
point there.
conversation should be a little strenuous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
think like on the treadmill, I don't know. I I'm back at Planet Fitness. Their
mhm.
treadmill, it's like their incline is at, like 0.5 increments.
Mhm.
So I was running at like a 2 on the incline,
Mhm.
and I just stuck the whole time between like a 5 to an 8 on the speed.
Okay. Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. That's good. If I mean, it's because that's like an actual like you're jogging to running sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually sweating and having problems, so that's
Yeah,
that's how
that's
I knew I was doing it right.
Let's go. That was
Yeah,
exactly my point. That was exactly
yeah,
my
the
point.
worst part of that, like 10 minutes in, I realized my earbuds didn't charge, so I for like
That's the
50,
worst.
50 minutes there, I was just quiet.
But
No
that's
sounds,
discipline.
beeps.
But that's discipline. To be able to actually push yourself through another 50 minutes of that is insane. Because I have shown up to the gym, realized I didn't have my headphones, and left. Like, straight up been like, well, not today, and just gotten out of there. So
Wasn't in the
kudos to
cards.
that. Kudos to that. That's
That was
insane.
rough, man.
Has it shifted? Like, because you're eating this way, how is that working with Mika? Like, is she like, all right, I'm just gonna eat my meals, like you do what you're doing, or is she like taking part? Like,
So like 90% of the time she's eating what I'm eating, because I'm also the one that usually goes out and does the shopping and I do the cooking. Now I offered her, I was like, hey, babe, listen, I'm going on this diet. You can eat with me, or I will be glad to, when I go shopping, buy this and this, and I can make you whatever you want. Because my plan going into this was, I want to get myself on a routine, and that's why I'm eating like the same thing for breakfast and lunch every day. I want to get into this routine and get used to this. So my plan was for dinner, I was just gonna make like a big batch of something that I could eat for like 3 or 4 days. So I told her, I was like, hey, I can just make my food. This will last me for X days, and then I can just cook for you on other days. But she's been fine eating what I'm eating. So that hasn't been a problem, thankfully.
okay, yeah, I was
Yeah, it's
curious
always
about
good when you
that.
got somebody that's willing to go through it with you. It makes a big difference.
Take some of
Yeah.
that, even if it was like, oh, I can make whatever you want. Like, that is still just extra work if you're having to do your thing. One bit of advice I would give for like having the exact same thing all the time, every time. Some people are capable of this. When I had my weight loss, when I went from like 205, 210 down to 160, that's what I did. I had freaking chicken and broccoli or a chicken salad or something like every day. And then I snapped and I just freaking gorged on stuff because I was so tired of eating the same thing. So just, even if it's like for a week, you have a lot of the same, and then like the next week it's something different, I'd have a little variety every now and again just to kind of break that brain breakdown.
I mixed it up this week. I've been eating just plain Greek yogurt. This week I
Oh.
got
No
vanilla.
walnuts.
Oh,
No
with the
walnuts?
walnuts.
Okay.
Just not like
No,
a
my
flavor.
breakfast was like a couple scoops of Greek yogurt, some walnuts, and then a little bit of honey on top. And then this week I'm having a couple scoops of vanilla Greek yogurt with walnuts and a little bit of honey on top.
Mm.
Yeah.
Lunch is still the same though. I'm having a piece of toast with some cream cheese, tomatoes, cucumbers, pepper, and some balsamic glaze, and that's my lunch every day.
Okay.
And so far, I'm doing okay. I'm not freaking out.
Heck yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say it's always great to, like you said, sometimes these things get forced upon us where we have to make that change, whether we wanted to or not. I mean, some people could go down the same path and just say F it, but I'm glad you are taking that serious and you are making those changes. I know my wife said that she was watching a Great British Bake Off, and there was a guy on there who has alopecia, but he lost a lot of weight.
He lost a lot of weight. I saw it too.
And my wife was like, she thought something was wrong with him, thought so he went sick or something like that. But she researched and found out that he had a father pass away due to health issues caused by his weight, and that was a red flag for him. And he was like, "Well, I got to get my life straight now." So he immediately went and turned his life around and started losing weight. So it wasn't because of any kind of disease or anything. He just it snapped, and he was like, if I want to live and live longer and live, healthy, I've got to make this change." So he made that change right then and there.
They talk about those flipping points, and it's really interesting because you hear about it and you're like, yeah, okay, sure, like some. But it's the same thing with me when I lost my weight and started to get in shape. Was like one day I just realized, like, wait a second, I have to put an effort to make that happen because I've always explained this story where I just assumed one day I would wake up and I would just be skinny. I would just wake up. It would just happen. I didn't have to do anything. I would just, as I got older, I would just get skinny. And then there I was in my early 20s and it was still not happening. And I was like, wait. And then I found working out, fitness consistently. I was working at a GNC, which I think aided in that, right? A general nutrition center with supplements and stuff. And I started to do it. And next thing you know, I was like, wait a second. Oh, wow, it's really that simple. I put in effort and I get a result. And that was a flipping point for me. And then I decided, oh, I'm going to go back to school. And the next thing you know, I went back to college and I crushed that. And I did it all because it was like effort result. And as basic as that sounds, it's like that doesn't connect with people. And then at a point, it does. And there's just different flipping points, right? Figuring your health out, realizing like, no, this is where I turn my life around, stuff like that. So that's a really interesting
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying
aspect.
if when I first got that news that in my head I was like, I could just
Ride it
ignore
out.
that.
Yeah, just ride it out. Yeah.
I could just, maybe it'll get better. But I think a lot of that decision had to do with me actually going to therapy, and it got me in a completely different like mind space to where I was starting like it made me care more about my own well-being and how it affects people around me.
Mm-hmm.
So the therapy has helped me tremendously, and I don't think uh, everything that's come after that would have ever happened if I didn't start going to therapy. If I didn't start going to therapy, I wouldn't have gone and got that physical. I would have gotten that blood work done because I never thought I had any reason to.
Yeah. That's a huge turning point. And I mean, it's awesome to hear like how well that's gone and the things that it has like led to, and all the other turnarounds and stuff like that. So no, that's super awesome. I guess one question I'm curious about is, and maybe there's not an answer for this. Maybe it is just that like you're going to stick with what you do now, which is going to be like the caretaker of the house and the cooking and stuff. But like, because you talked about doing IT certifications and those sorts of things. What's the next steps? Like, do you
I
want to pursue a job or do you want to just like stick with what you're doing?
I'm actively looking at jobs right now.
Okay.
Awesome.
So I am. This is definitely the biggest like short term like life change I've ever made. Not like made in a short term. Not that it is going to be short term, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, in this short amount of time, this is the most change I've ever made in my life.
Well, that's good things tend to compound, right? Like it's just one of those things. Like you start working on your mental health and then it was like, wow, I'm feeling better. That allows me to do these other things. Wow, those make me feel better. Now I want to pursue these other things that'll make me feel like I'm actually doing something with myself and being, part of society or whatever way you want to frame it. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. I am a realist, so I'm going to offer the advice of at some point there will be a dip in that positivity, and you got to be able to be like, okay, this is expected, and I got to wait and get my momentum back, and I got to keep going, and I got to get myself back there because it's no different, right? Think about me when it came to the streaming stuff. I go on those rolls, and everything's compounding, and I'm getting higher and higher and higher. Things are going great, and then it goes doof, and I fall apart because you're used to that positive trajectory. So the realist in me is saying this is amazing, but be aware that at some point something will happen and it won't perfectly work out, and you got to keep sticking to it and keep doing your stuff and that sort of thing. So
Yep. And I am prepared.
Yeah.
So I do want to say to all of the people that are listening and have been listening, a lot of this that's happening with me and what's going on with me is because, at least a big part of that is because of this podcast. Um, Therapy was something that I never thought about before, and then us talking about it here, compounding that with my wife telling me maybe it's a good idea. So it's just having this support group is what got me to start doing this. So if the podcast helps you at all, or if you just have people that you can talk to around you, it is helpful. I can finally attest to the fact that this does help.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's amazing to hear, actually. And I think it's cool when we go back to that episode where we're all like, Chris, go to therapy. And like the next week he was like, all right, so I went to therapy. And now look at us, dude.
Yeah, man,
Let's
making
go.
changes. And that's what people around you should do. They should all build you up and help you better yourself. And Yeah, you do have to look out for yourself too, and so that's good that you're on that path to to doing that. And
Yeah, I
Steven, I mean, all this is
good.
kind of in that same thing. Steven's trying to figure out his and get himself
Mm-hmm.
figured out and get himself straight, and I'm doing the same, man. Like I said, nobody's ever got this life thing figured out, and that's
And
one thing we can all.
it's always changing.
Yeah, it's always gonna be something. It's always gonna be something next. Like once I get my job figured out, and there's gonna be something else that's gonna happen. So, but adapting and overcome. I know it's cliche, but it's what we got to do, man.
I always said, I guess this isn't adapt. Maybe adapt would be better there, but I came up with this other one that was just like my own that popped in my head was persist, conquer. Like keep going and conquer. Like that was it, persist and conquer. But now I'm like, adapt is good, man, because like that's adjusting instead of doing the same thing. I ruined it. Persist is dead.
You didn't even have to mention it. You should have just said adapt and conquer.
Adapt and conquer, yeah. Oh well. No, I like persist. It's keep going. Yeah. I think at one point I wanted to put on a t-shirt or something like that. But I think it's worth noting as well that like we're having these things and these, life changes and what do we want to do and are we going to shift careers, and we're not teenagers and 20-year-olds.
No.
Like we're I'm young, Chris is getting up there, and then Indy, he's 40.
Yeah,
So
I'm 40. Yeah, I'm
so
old by the internet standards.
so
I'm
when
an
you
old guy.
when you think
We're
about
all
that,
old by internet standards.
that's true. That's true. I don't even respond anymore. Kids in games would be like, "How old are you?" And I just ignore it because if I tell them I'm 31, they're gonna be like, "What the heck, dude? Start a
Like, why does
family."
it matter, dude? I'm literally like in a perfect world, I'm old enough to be those kids' dad.
There you go.
Oh,
Well, it's just weird walking around work and people are like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir." I'm like, what? Sir? I'm like, oh my God, what happened? But yeah, it is what it is.
yeah. Well, this has been an interesting. I guess final thoughts I want from you guys is how did we feel about this type of episode? Again, for anybody listening, this isn't going to be what we do each and every time. Right now, I think the idea was maybe one session out of the month we do this. Depending on how we feel, depending on what the feedback is like, we'd love to hear your feedback, of course. Then maybe it becomes two of them. Maybe it becomes all of them. But for right now, it is, something that we're testing. I personally enjoyed it. I like being able to get things off our chests, talk about things with one another. It was really cool. So what are you guys thinking?
I think I think this was good for us. I think it's good for the health of the podcast to be able to just kind of let loose every once in a while.
I think it's also good for listeners who may be on the fence about something, because a lot of our podcasts have been about betterment of some sort and acknowledgement of certain things. This is just another step of that, where we're acknowledging some of the things we have going on personally.
Mm-hmm.
And life isn't perfect. We're gonna figure all this stuff out, but you're along for the ride. You're getting to hear it firsthand and know that, hey, nobody's got it all figured out. So,
and us being honest about the things going on in our lives and the struggles and the, with the job thing, for instance, and just being like, I have so much, like, one, I'm scared. Two, I have self-doubt, like all that. And then you have Chris making these life changes and being honest about how therapy helped and all that is huge. Yeah, yours was iPhones and Androids, but like it was still
that was
cool.
honest. That was very honest.
That was very honest. You're considering switching, and that's a big decision. So there we go.
Okay. Yeah, well, one more thing. Since Indy opened it up, I'd like to close this with Go Cowboys.
Oh, yeah. Go Cowboys. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. As always, we will let you know that you can follow us on all of our socials. You can find them at BeHonestMan.com. We'll have our Twitter linked, Instagram linked, TikTok, all that sort of jazz. So go follow us there. You can subscribe to our podcast on any of your favorite podcast networks if you're not listening to it on your favorite right now. Check us out. And remember, as always, be honest, man.